You know that feeling when someone compliments you and instead of warmth, you feel anxiety, like you've just been handed a test you didn't study for. You say thank you, but underneath, there's this immediate calculation. What do they want now? What version of me earned this? How do I keep performing so they don't take it back? Someone says, I'm proud of you, and your nervous system doesn't register safety, it registers obligation. Because somewhere, deep in your childhood, you learned that love wasn't a place you could rest, it was a stage you had to stay on, and the applause only came when you got it right. This is the hidden torment of conditional love. Not the loud kind of neglect everyone recognizes, but the quiet message that you are only valuable when you are useful, only lovable when you are perfect, only deserving when you meet the standards. And you probably don't even remember being explicitly told this, because conditional love hides in the praise that only came after achievement, in the attention that only appeared when you were convenient, and the affection that evaporated the moment you had a need. You became a child who learned to read the room before you learned to read your own heart, who could sense a parent's mood shift from 3 rooms away, who understood that your job wasn't to be a child, it was to be the right kind of child, the easy one, the impressive one. You learned performance before you learned personhood. And the thing that saved you then is the same thing destroying you now. Because you can't stop performing, even when you're alone, especially when someone says they love you, because you don't believe them. What you believe is that they love what you do for them. And the moment you stop, the moment you reveal the exhausted human underneath the performance, they'll leave. Psychologically, what you experienced is a rupture in secure attachment, the foundational belief that you are worthy of love without having to earn it. When love is conditional, the child internalizes a devastating equation. Love equals what I do, not who I am. This creates what psychologists call contingent self-worth, where your value feels entirely dependent on external validation. You don't develop an internal sense of okayness. Instead, you develop an internal auditor, constantly measuring, evaluating, comparing. Am I good enough yet? Did I do enough today? Neurologically, this reshapes your brain. Your amygdala becomes hyperactive, scanning constantly for signs of rejection. You're not living your life, you're managing everyone else's perception of your life. And your nervous system never gets to rest, because rest feels like risk. This is hypervigilance, not just anxiety, but exhausting, relentless readiness. Your body believing that your survival depends on anticipating other people's needs before they voice them. You scan facial expressions, you track tone shifts, you adjust constantly. This isn't a personality trait, this is a trauma response. Carl Rogers called this the false self, a persona constructed entirely to meet external conditions of worth. The true self, the one with needs and limits and flaws, goes underground. It becomes the thing you're most ashamed of, because you learned early that the real you wasn't enough. The emotional cost is staggering. The child of conditional love becomes an adult who looks incredibly functional, but inside there's constant fraudulence, a belief that if people really knew you, they'd be disappointed, and disappointment, to you, feels like death. This is the invisible grief of conditional love. You're grieving the childhood you never had, the one where you could be messy and still be cherished, where love was a constant, not a reward. But you don't consciously grieve this because you were told you were lucky, that you had everything. Materially, maybe you did, but emotionally, you were living in a famine, calling it a feast. Healing begins with reparenting yourself. offering yourself the unconditional presence you never received, sitting with discomfort without performing your way out of it, saying, "I'm struggling," without following it with, "but I'm fine." You engage in shadow work, turning toward the parts you've exiled, the needy part, the angry part, the part that wants to rest and still be loved. You practice disappointing people at a manageable level. You say no. You ask for help. You collect evidence that you can be flawed and still be loved. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But healing isn't about becoming yourself. It's about returning to yourself. You were always enough. The love you needed was never about what you did. It was about who you are. And who you are is someone worthy of unconditional love, not because you earned it, but because you exist. The goal was never to be enough for them. It was always to realize you were enough all along.